Good afternoon, Dr. Harvey. So great to have you with us.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
I know you must have some mixed emotions right now. You're leaving a position that you have been in for over 40 years, but you're also going to be starting a new chapter where you have some time to reflect, spend time with your family. Um, do you want to tell me a little bit about how you plan to spend the time after retirement?
Well, first of all, you said mixed emotions. Not really. I've been a planner all of my life, and I indicated that I was going to retire 2 years ago. So this is not anything that's new or sudden, because one of the things that I said I wanted to do was to write. I've done 3 books. I've got a couple of more that's at the publisher right now. Another one that's been accepted for publication probably next spring. I actually thought that it was going to be this fall because it's been accepted, but it's going to be next spring. And then I've got another book that I'm about 75% done with, and that's entitled The Inspiration of African American Art. And then after that one, I'm going to do my memoir. And that will probably, without really knowing, take a couple of years. And then I really think that I've got a couple of novels in me. And I'm such a hands-on president, and I've been a hands-on president for 44 years, that I couldn't do both. And I felt like that with all the wonderful experiences that the Lord had blessed me with, that I had some things to say. And I wanted to be able to put it in writing, in book form. And the fact is that, again, I do believe that the blessings that the Lord has given me are just tremendous. My energy level is like it was some 50 years ago. My mental acuity is like it was some 50 years ago. And I just felt like that it was time after 44 years. I first indicated some 42 years ago that it would be 44 years so that I could move forward. I'm always going to help Hampton, though. I'm always going to help Hampton. My contact list is very, very large in the federal government, both Democrat and Republicans. In the private sector, I served on 8 major boards, including Fannie Mae, Blue Cross Blue Shield, school boards like that, for profit, not for profit, probably 12 or 15, such as National Geographic, such as the Division I board of the NCAA. So just national boards, and my contact list is long, and I'm going to help Hampton in any way that I can. But I felt like that while I still had the energy and the mental acuity, there were some things that I needed to do where I could spend 4 or 5 hours a day on and still relax. So that's why in 2020, I indicated that I was going to retire in June 30th, 2022.
Yeah, so you put out a lot of information there, a couple of novels you said you think you have in you, and also books that you have in progress. Do you have topics already for your novels that you're going to work on?
I don't have topics, but I've got areas that I'm going to work on. One will be it'll be fiction, but it'll be on a live situation. And I'm not going to tell you what it is right now. So it'll be fiction. The other one will be kind of a combination between a nonfiction novel and a fiction one. That's going to be the first one I work on after my memoir. I told you I'm a planner. Right. I've actually already started, but I don't have much. I think I've got about 10 typewritten pages. I still use a typewriter. I don't use a computer. I still use a typewriter.
Wow.
I've got about 10 pages on that one, but it'll have to be on hold until I can finish the other 2 that I talked to you about, and then my memoir.
Right, and I know you have a lot of experience with art, and you actually donated funds to create a museum You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I'm a native of Alabama, and I went to Talladega College in Talladega, Alabama, before I went to Virginia State and to Harvard. So I have 3 earned degrees. I've got about 15 or 16 honorary degrees, but my first degree was at Talladega College. And I am just so appreciative of those experiences because, it was at a time when I think that people really cared about others more so than today. So, they may have been teaching math or biology or history, but they also taught about life and the kinds of things that my parents had talked to me about and taught my sister Ann and me, such as character development. And my parents talked to me about the character traits the traits of character development, which includes honesty and trust, respect for oneself, respect for others, integrity, discipline, and responsible personal behavior. And I think that that's one of the reasons why things have gone so well for me here at Hampton, because when our founder, General Samuel Armstrong, founded Hampton, he said in a speech in August of 1868 that there were 2 things he said that he wanted at his university or at his institution. He said one was top flight academics. Today, that would be called workforce development. And he said the development of character. And in the very next sentence that I have read said, and of the 2, the development of character is more important. Well, that's very important to me as well. So I think that was such a good connection there with what my parents taught me, what Talladega taught me from some of the professors, and throughout my life. So again, I have said that the Lord has blessed me, and I don't mind saying that to anybody. I have been president of Hampton for 44 years. I have been 100% owner of a Pepsi-Cola bottling company in Michigan for 42 years. And let me add, I've been married to the same wonderful woman for 55 years. So back to Talladega, they needed a new museum, African-American Art Museum. And it was my pleasure to be able to donate the money to build it. And the president and the board named it in my honor, which is also an honor. That was not a proviso because I was given the money for the development of the museum, but they named it in my honor, the Dr. William R. Harvey African American Art Museum. And I think that's a wonderful thing, just a wonderful thing.
And you all also have some great statues on campus. What inspired that?
Well, I have always believed and taught that teamwork really is very important. And the wonderful things that have happened here at Hampton really came about as a result of the team. A lot of people like to try to give me credit, but the fact is the only thing that I can take credit for is being a team leader. And I'm a pretty tough team leader, and I don't apologize for that. But it's the team, and that's what has gotten us where we are. And if you look back at Hampton's history, starting with our founder, who's out there are so many people that have helped Hampton achieve where we are today. And in the Legacy Park, we have blacks, we have whites, we have reds. And by reds, I mean a Native American. We have Dr. Susan B. LaFleche. She was an 1886 graduate of Hampton. She was the first Native American to get a medical degree in this country. So she's out there. I've got 2 United States presidents out there, one black, one white. I've got the general who's out there. The board wanted me to put my statue out there, and I said, okay. But we've got a president of this university, Dr. Bud Holland, who was president between 1960 and 1970. We got Dr. Martin Luther King. We have, I call her Sister Mary when I pass by. She was one of those hidden figure ones that graduated from Hampton. So we've got black folk, white folk, red folk, that all of those people, you know, we've got, as I said, two presidents, presidents of the United States. And it just is an example of the teamwork that brought Hampton forward. And I'm just as pleased as I can be that we've got those people out there. A lot of people don't even know some of the people out there, or even why they're out there, because the fact is that those people helped us, you know, and I'm just as pleased as I can be.
And those people, like you said, the first woman to graduate with a medical degree, these are people that inspire people all over the world, not just in Hampton Roads, not just at HBCUs. So it would be great for anyone who could visit Hampton. You don't have to be a student there. You don't have to be a parent of a student. There's so many amazing things on Hampton University's campus to see. And those statues are just a part of that. And not to mention the beautiful location of the campus. But it's a great thing to do this time of year. It's something you can do outside. And it's a remarkable thing to see.
Well, I invite anybody to come, not only to campus, because I think that it's the prettiest campus in the world. I've literally been all over the world. But we got water on three sides. We've got the new buildings that, on my judgment, blend majestically with the old. And we got the people out there at Legacy Park, you know, and I could spend probably a couple of hours just talking about them. You know, we got Rosa Parks, for example. If it had not been for Rosa Parks, there probably wouldn't have been a Martin Luther King, because she was coming from work and she was tired. She sat on the front seat, and she was told she had to move, and she said no. She didn't do it. She didn't do it. And, you know, she got into some difficulties, and people need to understand that it isn't always pleasant for what you do. And interestingly enough, a lot of people don't know this, but the man who was president at the time hired her after she left Montgomery, Alabama, because it got so hot for her down there with the racist people that were there. She came to Hampton and she stayed. She was the hostess in our Holly Tree Inn. A lot of people don't know that. Well, she's out there. So, you know, it's just a wonderful thing to be able to talk about the history, the contributions of men and women, young and old, of different races. You know, we got so much incivility in our country today that people don't seem to understand that we ought to all work together for the good of the people. But that isn't what happens a lot. And that Legacy Park out there is an example of different, as I said before, races and colors and ages, people that have worked together for the betterment of Hampton.
Mm-hmm. Talking about working together and staying focused. I have your book here, A Guide to Student Success in College. And you talk about so many amazing things in the book. One of the things that you talk about that's important right now is staying focused. And you list 12 principles to success. And one of them is say no to distractions. So can you say a little bit more about that?
Well, look, let me say, let me give a preamble to that. I have lectured recently at schools like Harvard, where I got my doctorate, Yale, Columbia, William and Mary, Howard, Talladega, schools like that. And I tell folk that if you're really interested in being a leader, you got to understand some things. You got to understand that people are going to attack you. People will rumor on you. They will lie on you and do all of that. So the thing to do is don't worry about that. Say no to distractions, because that's all that is. Do what you think is right and best, and then let the chips fall where they may. And that's what I have done. And I don't care whether or not you're a president of the United States or a governor or corporate head or president of a university or principal or what have you. As I said, you know, people are going to rumor, gossip, lie, attack you. So don't worry about it. Say no to distractions and do what you think is right and best.
That's some great advice. I was wondering, the new president that's coming in, I was able to see him speak at Hampton before, and he seems like he's going to be really good for the university. If you had to give him any advice, what would that be?
Well, first of all, let me just say that when I came here 44 years ago, I believe in input, and I started meeting in the room that I'm in right now with student leaders. And those were the presidents of the classes, the SGA president, and things like that. And his senior year, which was 1982, 83, he was president of the senior class. So he sat around this table. And I liked him then. And I have followed his career, interacted every now and then. And I invited him back to give the commencement address 2019 and to give another address, Founders Day address before then. So I've always liked him, thought that he would be a great person. As it relates to the advice that I would give him is he needs to fully understand Hampton and understand that we're not a public college. We don't get public money from the state or anything like that. So the role of the president is his chief fundraiser. And in that regard, I have just been so fortunate because before I came, we had not balanced our budget in 2 decades. And our endowment was 29 million. Now it's over 400 million. So, you know, people can talk all they want to about duties, responsibilities. The person who's going to be president of Hampton is going to have to raise money because our budget is somewhere around 190, $200 million a year. And I would just advise him to try to do the best he can with his contacts and with his energy and with his time to make sure that he would do that. And I hope that given the success that he's had in the military, that he will be able to do that.
Yes. And he is a general, right? With the retired general.
Yeah, he's retired, but he was a 3-star general.
3-star general, Gerald K. Williams, right?
Right.
So, what do you see for the future of Hampton? You have set the university up very well. As you mentioned, the endowment from 29 million to over 400 million. And with those funds and the way you're leaving the university, what do you see for the future?
Well, the only thing I can do is to pray and hope because we've been up and down before. When Dr. Jerome Holland was here between 1960 and 1970, we flourished. We had new academic programs, we had new buildings, we had funding, and then it went down. So I would hope that this funding can continue. I would hope that our endowment can continue to grow. Now, you know, we're in a kind of a down market right now, and endowments go up and down. And our endowment has flirted below 400. It's gone back up to over 400. And I don't worry about that because it's in pretty good hands. And we have an advisor that advises us on a monthly basis about what to buy and what to sell and things like that. But again, I just hope Hampton can continue to excel because if you look at Hampton right now, in any objective analysis, Hampton is one of the best modest-sized universities in the entire country. And I didn't say one of the best HBCUs, I said one of the best modest-sized universities in any objective analysis. And I just hope that we can stay that way, and I would hope that General Williams can provide the leadership, and I'm going to help him if he wants my help to continue that upward spiral. So that's my desire.
Mhm. You mentioned not comparing Hampton to other HBCUs, but you can compare Hampton to any university. And you all recently moved to a new athletic conference. What prompted that move?
Well, I've always been one that searched for the very best. And as I said, I went to Talladega College, which is a terrific institution, Virginia State. And then, there are those that say that Harvard University is the best in the world. So I went to Harvard, and one of the things that I advise in my book that I advise young students when they're getting ready to go to college or go to grad school, I said, pick out six. Pick out six. Pick out two that you can get into. Pick out two that may be 50-50. And then pick out two that you think is going to be very difficult. Well, I did the same thing. And Harvard was one of those that I picked out that I said that, I wasn't sure I could get in. But the fact is that I got in Harvard and Yale and Stanford and others like that. And I was just thankful to be able to do that. So my advice is the diversity of what you're looking for if you're going to a grad school. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did, and that's my advice to any and all.
Mm-hmm. And so you think the Colonial Athletic Conference is one of the best conferences?
There's no doubt about it, it is. Think about it. Hampton was the first HBCU to go in. Now, we left the CIAA and went to the MEAC. Some schools followed us. We left the MEAC and went to the Big South. Some schools followed us. I won't name them, but you can find out who they are. We left the Big South and went to the Colonial. Some schools, at least one or maybe two HBCUs are going to follow us. We like to lead, and we like to be with the best. So think about the Colonial. Kind of teams we're going to be playing are University of Richmond in football, William & Mary, University of Maine, University of New Hampshire, University of Delaware, Duquesne. Those are the kind of schools we're going to be playing. And our alumni are all up and down the East Coast. So I would suspect that when we go to New Hampshire or Maine or Northeastern and Boston, that they will go to those schools and cheer us on. As I said, I like to be number one. And that's why that was what has inspired me to dream no small dreams in academics. We've been fortunate enough to build 30 new buildings. I talked about the finances. We've introduced some 92 new degree granting programs, including 12 doctorates. So we dream no small dreams here. And I think that getting to this conference is just another example of dreaming no small dreams. And the fact is, I want to tell you something. We're not just going to be in there. We're going to win. Okay.
I bet. And you mentioned that I could look up the schools that followed you, but I happen to be a graduate of North Carolina A&T. Yep. So I know A&T was one of the schools that followed you. And I know that you must be a mentor to so many college presidents. So I have to ask you about your relationship with Dr. Harold Martin. Since he followed you into that conference, and not necessarily because you all got in the conference, but yeah, can you tell me a little bit about your relationship?
Well, let me just say that I've always believed, as I told you earlier in this interview, with teamwork, and I try to help people. I don't just help Hampton. I have helped HBCUs. President Obama appointed me chairman of his President's Advisory Board on HBCUs. And when presidents ask me, what do you think about this conference? I tell them. And with Dr. Martin, he's a very good man. And, he had the good sense of sending his children to Hampton. So.
Okay.
But he's a very good man, and I think that he's done a remarkably good job at A&T. And I want to tell you, some of my friends from my young age, like Jesse Jackson, he went to A&T, and I talked to Jesse last week. And so I'm just saying, Harold is a terrific person. He's a terrific president. And I was very pleased to have his children here.
Well, what do you think about some of the other HBCU presidents to watch? We've got some new presidents coming into some of the universities, and then some that have been there quite a while. And we know that the leadership is very important for the survival of these HBCUs. Are there any other HBCU presidents that you're mentoring?
I'm not going to mention any others, but I will say this. Probably 8 out of 10 new presidents, not just HBCUs, but including HBCUs, when they get elected, they'll call and want to come and shadow me for a day. And I always say yes, because I did the same thing. I did the exact same thing. I remember when I was elected president, I was administrative vice president at Tuskegee. And when I got elected, the first person that I talked with after I talked to the president of Tuskegee and my wife, I called the president of Xavier, Dr. Norman Francis, and I went down and shadowed him for a day. And so that's why I have allowed others to shadow me, because I learned a lot. I sat in on his meetings. I sat in on the individual one-on-one meetings with with the president of Xavier, and I do the same thing. So I won't call names, but I think we've got some good people coming along, and they know, just as I know, that I'm more than willing to help them, because that's what I do, and I will continue to do that. I'll help in any way. I will give advice with a clear understanding that they don't have to follow it, but I will give them the advice. If you ask me a question, I'm going to give you an answer. You don't have to follow it. It might be wise, it might not be wise for you to follow it, but I kind of think it would be wise because, I've got the kinds of experience, I've got the kind of training that is designed to help. And I've got the personality that want to help people. That's it.
Now, I interviewed Congresswoman Alma Adams for the HBCU Futures Conference, and she shares your love of art. But what would you say to congressmen or congresspeople right now about student loan forgiveness and how beneficial that would be? What's your advice?
Well, Congressman Adams has been in my office, and we spent most of the time talking about African-American art, because my wife and I have probably one of the, I won't say the, but one of the largest collections of African-American art in the entire country. So we spent a lot of time talking about that. But as to your specific question, I maybe will touch on a couple of things, because I actually have an op-ed piece on that I'm probably going to submit to a couple of places and see whether or not they will accept it. They may not, because of some of the things that I'm saying. But I think that we need to get a handle on that, and I think that we can. If you look at, and by the way, I think that there are issues and problems on both sides. I think that the people in the federal government and the Office of Education need to take a good hard look at what the loans are used for. And I'll just say this, and this probably will be controversial to some, but I think that the loans ought to be for room, board, tuition, and fees only. Now there are those, some, you see, they'll use it to buy cars or buy apartments, or some send money home to mama. That's not what it was designed for. As a matter of fact, one of the persons who designed it, I've got in this op-ed, and I'm quoting her, said that when she was asked about it, she said, "We've created a monster." Well, it is a monster. Right now, you think about it, it's about $1.6 trillion that's out. The average is around $36,000. So I think that the federal government needs to tighten up a little bit. And there are a lot of things. For example, they charge a fee. I don't think that the federal government ought to make money on student loans. I think that they ought to tighten up and do as I've just suggested. But I think that there are other things, and I'll mention just one because I don't want to give away everything that I've got. I like the whole idea, and I've been preaching this for 20 years at least, about people working after they graduate, and for every year they work, for an example, get some of that loan off. Now, what agencies? I think it can be the military. It could be something like a number of not-for-profit agencies. Mm-hmm. And for example, suppose you had your average loan was $36,000. Suppose you would work 4 years or spend 4 years in the military or some other one, Peace Corps. Mm-hmm. I mean, you name it. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying for every year, you would knock off 9. Every year you spend, knock off 9 years. So 2 years if you spend, that's 18. $9,000. 2 years, that's 18,000. 4 years, that's 36,000. Your loan is paid for. So what have you done? You've gotten your loan taken care of. You have matured. You have learned some things, and you have contributed. So this is how I look at it. I will quote you what Dr. Martin Luther King has said in my home in Brewton, Alabama. My father was a building contractor, and he was a civil rights leader. And during that time, when I grew up, the African Americans could not go to certain motels, hotels, or certain places to eat. So there were homes all over the South, not just one or two, all over the South, where they would come mostly on the weekend to get a glass of tea, a glass of lemonade, or a meal. And there were discussions. And my father, and I just thank him so much for so many things, allowed me to sit in on that. Now, I could sit in with the proviso that I not say a word. I couldn't ask a question. I couldn't make a comment. And back then, if your daddy told you not to say a word, you didn't tell you to go stand in the corner. They gave you something that you remembered. So I had to sit there and listen to people like Dr. Martin Luther King, his brother, Reverend A.D. King. Now that did two things for me. One, it allowed me to hear some of the problems, some of the promises that was going on in the civil rights movement from the icon himself. So I was allowed to do that. But I'll tell you what I heard him say. He said he did not want to be given anything other than an opportunity. He wanted an opportunity for African Americans, opportunity to go to any restaurant that you wanted to, opportunity to go to any school that you could get into, an opportunity. Today, you've got some people want to give you everything. They want to give you childcare. They want to give you this. They want to give you that. And they think you're helping. They're helping, but they aren't. I go right back to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Give me opportunity. Let me understand and appreciate a strong work ethic, work hard, and then to achieve. So that's what I look at, and that's what I think. And I want to tell you, that's about all I've got time for right now.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I wanted to remind people about your book and also about your Principles of Leadership book. That is great for any in any industry, not just in higher ed, but people could definitely use this. And parents, students, this should definitely be a reference book in every university and every high school. Some great information in here. Thank you so much for everything that you've done for the Hampton Roads community, for HBCUs, for colleges in general, and also just for the US in advising presidents.
Well, I thank you too, because it's so important. It's just so important in what you do, and I just appreciate you. I appreciate this interview, and I'm glad that I was able to do it. And you take care and stay safe.
Thank you. And I wish you well in your retirement. And hopefully you'll come back when you finish those other books and I'll be able to interview you after those.
I'll tell you what, on the next book that's published, I'll give you an autographed copy.
I appreciate that. I look forward to it.
All right. Thank you now.
Thank you.